Success Mantra is a program which features people, successful individuals from various walks of life. They are less known heroes who believe in their dreams and have conviction to live their full potential. Idols, icons, innovators who care to live every moment on their own terms.
Welcome to another edition of Success Mantra, and hope all of you are keeping absolutely fighting fit in times of lockdown and the pandemic. Today, fortunately, we have a fantastic guest with us, Mr. Atul Behari Bhatnagar, who has been in the industry for 30 plus years in banking, education, skill development, and also a lot of, social impact related work. So let's hear from him. Atul, first of all, welcome to the show. We are really delighted you could make it to our show today.
Thank you, Sonali, and namaste to everyone who's watching this show. And it's a great pleasure to be here to be able to share some of the experiences I've had for which can benefit, and I hope they do benefit other people who are watching the show. Now, well, I started off as an engineer.
Wow.
I was in IIT Kanpur in 1980 to 85, the last of the 5-year batch. And I worked for 2 years as an engineer. I was in Tata Motors and I worked on the shop floor, got my hands dirty, and everything was going on fine. And then I jumped to Calcutta, and from where I moved to banking. Now, a lot of times this question is asked: was I wasting national resources by first getting into IIT and then spoiling it all, the engineering part, to banking?
Right.
Now, I have that is one learning I'd like to share with you.
Sure.
That it's not about designations and jobs. I don't call myself an engineer and I don't call myself a banker. I never got stuck to a job. I got stuck to skills. What skills did I pick up in engineering and what skills did I pick up in banking?
Right.
Well, from my banking career, I moved from, I was in Citibank where I started my career. Then I moved to HSBC in the UAE. Then I moved to Barclays in Kenya. And after 14 years abroad, I came back to India in 2012.
Wow.
And here I got a break to do some nation building. I was the chief operating officer at the National Skill Development Corporation. And from then on, I have been involved with the skill development ecosystem. And having been exposed to a very large set of really best-in-class organizations, I thought I found my calling in working with startups and organizations for social impact.
Fantastic. Awesome. So, it's a wide variety of things, right from IIT Kanpur to banking to, kind of various other skills that you picked up in Citibank, HSBC, Barclays, and of course, to top it all, coming and working with NSDC. So, I'm really curious that how did this happen? As in, from banking, how did you transition to government, organization? And of course, I know the kind of platform NSDC is. So, how did you land up there?
Look, first of all, whatever I say, I do try and bring some humility in myself. I don't say I did it. I seem to have been led through all this while. So I'm a deeply spiritual person. And I feel by keeping myself hollow and empty, I get directed to a certain route, which I take. And as my name spells, I'm Atul. So I'm a tool for the Supreme Being to get some delivery of services.
That's well said. The tool. Wonderful. Excellent.
So really, I feel like that because the moment I say, I did this and I planned it and I did that next, and this was part of my 5-year and 10-year plan. Actually, I don't believe in all those. Really, I keep seeing so many books and so many management gurus taking you should have your personal goals and this goal and you chart out your timeline. When it doesn't happen, then you get depressed and you feel like a failure. So I did not really practice that. I have been more, let's say, spontaneous. whatever came my way. And that way, when I came back to India, in fact, it was rather sad that I was coming back to India with a lot of banking knowledge and from abroad at the board level also. But the Indian recruiters would say, sir, aapko Indian experience to hai nahi. You don't know about the Indian banking industry.
Right.
And they wouldn't take me. So I was like really getting quite fed up. And that's when NSDC was looking for a banking type person to look at how we can give loans and do capacity building of skill development. This is way back in 2013.
Right.
And they approached me and they found my profile good enough. And I went through series of news, etc. And actually, NSDC is a public-private enterprise. So yes, the government has 49%, but the private has 51%.
Okay.
And it's a pretty unique place. At least I believe when we were there, it was a very unique place. Things have changed. Then I would like to comment on that. But when we were there, we had a very, it was one of my best stints, really.
Wow.
Doing something to create. And it was, for me personally, it was a payback time.
Like this is beautifully mentioned by you that you're very spiritual and spontaneous. So could you tell us a little more about how this spirituality and serendipity really kind of panned out in your life?
In IIM Calcutta, in my final semester, there was a professor who died last year, late Shri Satyesh Chakrabarti.
Okay.
And SKC, we used to call him for short. He started a course called the Management Ethos, the Indian Way.
Okay.
And that's where we used to have classes which used to sit on the ground and we used to have hymns and some it was a 3-hour class, we start with some kind of meditation. It was all very new. It wasn't being taken for the first time. And he said at that time, you will forget everything else, but you'll remember me. And today I have, let's say, this forum to say, yes, that's the only course I remember. The rest of it is all gone. So,
absolutely.
And that's where he brought out the differences between the Western philosophy and the Indian one. And when I say this, I'll give you a very simple example. Western philosophy talks about brainstorming. The Indian philosophy talks about brain stilling. Brainstorming is like, you throw ideas and, you don't stop anybody else from thinking whatever they, and then you hone into something, some small set of ideas.
Right, right.
But look at brain stilling. How did Newton get to know this apple falls and there's gravity behind it? So many apples fell, so many people slept under a tree, but they never could get it. At that time, there was and that is where, when I say you make yourself hollow and empty, that's where you are getting connected to let's say, a supreme consciousness. People talk about as God, people might not talk about it. They say energy, wave field, whatever you talk about it. But there is definitely a connection between your own body and mindset, or what you call it, to a bigger supreme consciousness. Beautiful. And that's where my first, let's say, brush with spirituality happened. Then way back in 2000, I did some Art of Living courses.
And that's nice.
That is where the real spirituality kind of rose in me. It was not about just, praying or sitting in meditation, sitting quietly, but why and what happens to you, what it brings to you by doing this meditation. So from then on, and then for the last, in fact, 3.5 years, I've been doing meditation daily. And Art of Living teaches you not to be kind of, you don't have to lock yourself in a room or sit on top of Himalayas to kind of get that knowledge.
Right.
It's about where you are. And sometimes, even before this particular session, not that you don't feel nervous, you do. No matter how good a public speaker is, for that millisecond, you are nervous, correct? Yeah. So that's when you control your breath in such a way that things then start coming out on their own, and then you start disseminating or receiving information and sharing your views, etc. So that is the bit of spirituality I think is very essential in the current day and age, especially with this COVID and all kinds of things going haywire. How to maintain your own self, yourself only. You don't have to have some guru sitting on top of you and kind of giving you instructions, everything. but
Right.
how do you become yourself? Because you yourself are a whole. I mean, you are just
Right.
part of the universe. We
Absolutely.
always think outside. So
Mm-hmm.
Western philosophy is think outside. You talk about
Mm-hmm.
work enlargement, how many
Mm.
people working with you, how many states and how many,
Mm.
how many, what kind of a P&L do you command and
Right.
all those kind of things. Whereas the Indian philosophy talks about work enrichment. Whatever you have,
Mm. Mm.
find satisfaction in that. And in
Beautiful.
fact, that's what I'm doing right now. I
Mm-hmm.
find satisfaction in doing social development
Mm.
and I'm happy with it. I don't get
Excellent.
too much money, but I get good sleep.
Wow, I'm really elated at this. That you mentioned about spirituality coming from IIT IIM. The fact that you think that this entire brain stilling activity is one of the important ones. The thing that I remember from Art of Living, I still kind of practice it, is that when you get into a room, we come in with a lot of expectation. The first thing that you need to learn to do is drop all expectations. Then everything is a
Correct.
wonder, right? So
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
like so well said that these are small snippets in our life, but they have a lasting impact when we start practicing it on a regular basis. So
Correct.
like you have been very privileged to have such a pedigreed education, and then followed by your amazing stint of various banks, and then of course giving back to society. So Atul, what does success really mean to you?
Success actually means good sleep, very frankly. It is something, as I said, you
Hmm.
yourself are complete.
Hmm.
And as soon as you realize that,
Mhm.
then you don't look at outward things. You don't look at the number of bedrooms in your house, and you don't look at
Right.
the make of your car, and you don't look at your bank balance. You
Right.
know,
Huh.
you are yourself very complete,
Mhm.
and some of these things don't even matter. And
Matter to you.
you, well,
Hmm.
of course, you may
Hmm.
have to pay a few EMIs, and you have to get your children
Hmm.
educated, and
Absolutely.
that management of your own self is
Hmm.
success. It doesn't
Management of
come
your
easy.
own
It
self.
hasn't come to
Hmm.
me even now, but I've been
Hmm.
practicing it, and I
Hmm.
feel that's the
Said
path to
that
go ahead.
managing yourself, managing your like time, space, reality, that helps you manage others around you. So
Yeah.
what would you say are the traits or behaviors which has really helped you manage yourself as well as others?
Well, one is the awareness. I mean, to be
Hmm. Hmm.
aware of what's around you. It's
Hmm. Hmm.
sometimes we just lead life thinking that we've got two eyes and therefore we have got a vision. No, the vision
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
far beyond what your eyes can see.
True.
And that awareness of, it's like
Hmm.
from once you have that awareness, and वो शाहरुख खान का डायलॉग है ना कि एक बार you whatever you want, you put
Hmm.
it out in the universe, and the
Yeah,
universe conspires to give it back to you.
absolutely.
So
Hmm.
you then don't have to worry. You
Hmm.
just awareness
Hmm.
and worry, there's a big difference, correct?
Hmm.
Just
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you are looking at it and saying, okay, am I becoming, am I getting my promotions in time
Hmm.
in the corporate
Hmm.
life, or
Hmm.
you leave that. You just work in your current moment. And when
True.
you are in your current moment, whatever you do, and there's a series of current moments, that's what life is all about. So,
True.
and again, I'm saying
Hmm.
I'm not a master at it.
Hmm.
I'm working towards it, and
Hmm.
every day I get some moments right. I say, okay, yes, I'm better off than
So,
yesterday.
which has been the most important or landmark achievement in this journey of career, life, everything for you?
Well, in Tata Motors, I was a graduate trainee engineer, and there was a
Mm-hmm.
four of us.
Mm-hmm.
And one fine day, so it was a 2-year training. We were spending time on the shop floor. 3 months, every 3 months, we would change our
Mm-hmm.
assignments. One of the enterprising deputy general manager, and his name was, I think he's no more now, Mr. Sunawala. He
Mm-hmm.
called us and said, "Look, you guys are not doing anything much," which is well, quite the truth. Actually, we were we were just observing. We were not doing.
Mm.
So he said, "You make a cherry picker for me." And I said, hello, what's its cherry picker? It I just thought, "Okay, look, I'm going to lose my job. He's finding a way to get me out." So, and he just described to me what a cherry picker is. He says, look, a cherry tree is very fragile and there's a cherry fruit on top of it. If you put a ladder against it, the cherry tree bends and might break. If you do not have two hands free, you can't pick the fruit off. And if the cherry doesn't come with the small stalk, then nobody will buy it. So the fruit gets damaged. Now apply the same principle to my shop floor. And he was very possessive about his shop. He says, my shop floor has got so many machines, they go wrong. Sometimes people have to climb on top of it. It's grime and it's all very slippery and people can get hurt. Right. So try and develop a maintenance platform which can go within the machines and you can stand there and start doing some maintenance from there. Now, this is way back in 88. 86, 1986. We hadn't seen a cherry picker. Now you can see a cherry pickers out there. They're changing bulbs of these high-speed lights. It's like a crane which goes up, and there's a basket at the end of it. You stand in and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, in a week, I want a proposal from you guys. So I said, now this is definitely at the end of the week, I lose my job. But we went in and I came up with an idea. I had to own up to it because this was my idea, and the four others, we all agreed on it. We went and presented to the topmost, the management council of telco executives. And they were very happy. He said, "Look, this looks nice." I said, "Fine, now it's accepted." Then he said, "Okay, now do it." I said, "Now this is even worse." So, we were so-called IIT engineers. We knew how to design and create and,
right.
But to do it is like, no way, that's not possible type. But for the next 6 months, we did it. Now, some of the and when it came up, the cherry picker, I still talk about it. My wife says that was my first love because I still talk about it more than her. So, but that was a life's learning. And that showed within me, yes, I have a creative spirit. I can put some things on paper and make them happen and make it into a tangible product. So I think that was my greatest achievement. I keep talking about it ever since. The machine got made, it was presented, it went all the way to the telco chairman, Mr. Sumit Mulgaonkar, and they said they want to get a patent for it. Of course, that didn't happen. Unfortunately, I left for IIM Calcutta. The deputy general manager was very angry with me as to why I'm leaving this and going there. And there's another reason that I went there. But anyway, that's the situation. The thing is, look, sometimes life leads you to some really harrowing moments. And in those harrowing moments, again, you come up with some opportunity, some discovery you make for yourself. And that's when I say, okay, while COVID is happening and there's adversity, there might be opportunity.
Right.
It's not a cliched statement. If you think about it, you might really get something for the next 10 years, maybe.
Beautiful. So this cherry picker idea is, of course, amazing.
I'll send a picture to you. It's a very classy, very nice little thing.
Nice. So, throughout your life, various transitions, what has been the motivation or something, like the role models that you have had in thought and spirit and people that has really led you towards each one of these milestones?
Yeah, I've had some very good bosses. I just mentioned about the Tata Motors one. Even though I was pushed into this, when we came out successfully, the same DGM said, I know you guys must be thinking me to be a villain and that I'm programming you to fail. But he said every single day there was literally say spies on you who were watching you from in a very discreet manner to know that you're on the correct path. And in case things were going wrong, and in case you would not have been able to make it, I would have pulled you off the project saying, well done, acha hai, correct, let's go, you go back to your training. Because I would not like to be known as I would not like to live with that guilt. Okay, I got some fresh some fresher engineers to fail so early in life. So I thought this was amazing because it was not just giving you a project and forget about you and then bombarding you because, I'm a senior person. That senior person, he says, I have not slept for the last 6 months because I was very worried I should not play around with your lives and career. So that is one boss I had. Later on, when I was in Citibank, and another person who, again, unfortunately died, Mr. Ashok Dutt, he was so instrumental in taking, let's say, personal interest in people's lives. My son was born in Madras and he had a congenital defect. He had to undertake some 3 surgeries in the first year itself. And I did not have that much of cash with me, and being in Apollo, and it was like, medical care is costing a lot. He got to know about this while he was in Bombay. He called me into his, he came to Madras. I was in Madras. He was in Bombay. He came and called me into his room and he says, Atul, what's happening in your life? And I said, look, this is what. So, and I was in very deep, I was very tense anyway because I was usually used to commute from the hospital to office. And he'd called the hospital doctor, the official doctor. He says, tell him. And I told him. He says, yeah, what he's being advised is right. Then he says, okay, how much money do you want? It was around 1,25,000. He says, I'll sign it off right now. And then he rang up the HR guy and says, why can't we write off this amount? I said, hello, excuse me. What's happening here? So, and then he says, and there were some tax implications and all that. But he says, okay, we will give you a 20-year loan at 0% interest, and we'll cascade the EMI such that as your salaries go up, you can pay a larger amount so your take home doesn't get disturbed. Now, none of this was there in the company policy. None of the HR guys were still, saying, sir, if we do it for one guy, then how will we do it? Other people will. No. So he was going through that extra mile, and it's not one. He touched so many other people's lives. And then I've used that human touch. Right. And that's what gets you. So I'm a chief operating officer. So I used to keep saying, I don't run operations. I don't run processes. I run people who run processes.
Absolutely.
So it's that people touch which really makes you succeed. And I think that is very critical in our lives. Otherwise, metrics are there and they're now talking about analytics. They're talking of AI, talking all kinds of things, all very mathematical. But the end of it, it's people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because leadership is to do with, driving people to get to their goals and supporting them in the journey. Very rarely you find such kind of leaders you just spoke about. So fantastic. They really are worth role models in the journey that you have had. And have you had in this amazing roller coaster ride, have you had any failures at all?
Oh, yes. I started, I think I'll start from class 2. I moved from a Hindi medium school in Ghaziabad to Nainital. I was in St. Joseph's there. So from a Hindi medium to a Christian Brothers school, where it was not only how you write English, but how do you speak English. That was also very carefully looked at. Wow. And so it was in March in late 1960s or something, 1969 or so. My first card monthly test, I failed. I failed, and with English I had some 12%, and Hindi I had some 91%. And then my father rang a bell within the family, and then one of my mamajis, who was a good teacher, he came and this was Nainital, so people used to come to our place a lot more times because it was a nice picnicky place. So for 2 months he drilled me. He drilled me, really, not drilled me. He drilled me, and he drilled me on basic principles on when you say x is equal to 2 plus 3, then what is x and all that bit. So BODMAS and whatever the things were at that time, he taught me from very basic principles, to the extent that I topped the class by October. So between March and October, there was a major transformation that happened. And that's when I realized, look, yes, if I can transform myself from a failure and then I topped all my classes right from class 2 to class 9. So it suddenly gave me that confidence. And I think that's where and I feel very, very sad when I see people doing tuitions and tuitions from class 1 all the way to class 10. I think the earliest form of mentoring that comes in that tuition only for 2 months. In 2 months, if my uncle was able to put me on a road which has now extended for 30 years, I think it has to start from there itself. And now we talk with mentoring, and I'm losing it. I'm using that word in a very loose manner. There are multiple definitions, but I would equate it to that. Look, what does mentoring mean? Mentoring mean is trying to invoke that self-starter spirit in whoever you're in your mentee.
Absolutely.
And I think that came through my tuitioning, and here it came mentoring.
Beautiful. We were very privileged to come across some of these teachers or mentors, like you said, that self-starter spirit, who people who can introduce that. Those are the true kind of mentors and teachers who create human beings. I think that's something which is somewhere going missing in our world today in the schools and colleges, because people get into teaching because they don't want to get into anything else, and it's a convenient profession. It's not out of love and kind of respect for the profession. So in India, it's like a long way to go before we become something like a Finland, where teaching is one of the best paid jobs, and it's like looked upon in a very big way. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's also important to see what you're doing with that early form of teaching. And when I look back and introspect, I said, why? Because, I meet youngsters, or even, in the family, people who are in the tent, and he says, why do I have to learn tables? I can use it on my mobile phone. Even the calculators are out of vogue now. There's no calculators right now. It's all about mobile phones. And if not mobile phone, you ask Siri and she'll tell you the answer. Anyway,
exactly.
So it's all that. So the thing is, sometimes I used to say, yeah, that's quite true. I mean, Siri can tell you the answer. Why should I need to know 2 1s are 2, 2 2s are 4 and all that? But if you look at it deeply within, it was opening channels of communication within your own brain, of how to fetch and deliver numbers, etc. That is what your analytical skills are all about. And analytical skills are not about the Python and the Excel spreadsheets that you used. You used to get some dashboards, etc. Unless you have it here, you can't program it. All these things can only come in when your mind is working analytically. So it's very important to do that right at the beginning, because your brain, your neurons are firing in a certain way, and then you can start using technology. Technology is an enabler; it's not a solution, and that's why what I think is very critical to understand very early on, because nowadays you get so many questions, so many let's say challenges. Why should I need to do this? What is in it for this? And it was in your time, aapka zamana tha. And you were there. My sons keep saying, Dad, you come from an era when the stairs couldn't move. Now we're in cases of elevators and all that.
I think it does have a role to play when it comes to the neurons and the brain cells and all of that. Having said that, there's a lot of weightage now being given across the world, in fact, to kind of apply thinking on various education that you're getting, rather than mug it and go write it in the exam. Because I don't know, like at least till class 12, it's more about memorizing and then putting it out there. It's less about application and more about how well you memorize. I think that is somewhere it's high time it started changing across the education system, because it doesn't do any good service to the students, because they lose. And of course, the way the entire grading system and how the internal intellect of the child is not tested and aligned towards the right direction. Because as per Howard Gardner's multiple theory of intelligence, every child has certain intelligence which needs to be tapped upon. So I think, if we can tap into these things, our talent kind of innovation will increase in a big way.
We have to move away from this marks and the, when I see the CBSE results in 99.6% in knowledge, I get depressed actually. I'm no good. If I take out my class 12 certificate, I would be not getting admission in any college anywhere. Correct?
That's the standard now. 90 से नीचे मिल ही नहीं सकता.
हाँ, 90 वाला भी नहीं मिलता, वो भी मेरा डिप्रेस हो जाता है. Now you're like 90, 99, 98 and whatnot. All those things are pretty sad that way. I think we need to ask more of those thinking questions. And one of the, the good points of IIT and IIM systems is, first of all, they've got full, let's say, independence in setting a paper. And in that independence, in IIT, I was very much at ease. I don't have to practice the last 5 years and 10 years papers to be able to crack the exam. So none of that is going to come in. A question comes only once in a lifetime, really. And the one prof sets it. Right. You see, lately, if you can look up the WhatsApp University forwards about the IIT Goa paper. It's going around.
You frame the answer, you frame the question and the answer. Yeah.
Correct.
I came across this.
Depending on what's been taught. So if the guy has not gone to class, if the person has not gone to class, he's finished. Correct?
Right.
It's just the thinking. It's just the innovativeness of setting a question. Same with us. When we were there were profs who would kind of say, okay, 6-hour exam. And so we're all sitting there quite tense and all. And after 2 hours, he just say, okay, I'm going home. You can slip the paper under my doorway. Before 12 midnight, you can go to your room and do it. So there was nothing called, we are coding actually. So you're 2 hours down the road, you already formed some kind of algorithm. Even if you have to ask the guy next, because now the prof is away, you can ask, you can so-called cheat. But the other guy is not going to be telling you. Your mind is already, you'll get confused actually. And that's a real life situation. Absolutely. When you have to produce this, you have to produce results, and then you are on your own. And those things is what that kind of innovativeness in exams. Forget exams. Continuous assessment should happen, so that your final exam is not where the parents and the student both have to visit a mental health doctor. They really
well
get
said. Well said.
The mothers are throwing their hands around. And how do I control this boy? And the boy is not sleeping, and the father is having a tough time.
True. Fantastic. So we had a beautiful discussion. Thanks for sharing your journey with us. Should I say Bihari-ji? There's a different story around it. You are the Bihari from Delhi. So what is the message that you would like to leave with our audience? What's your success mantra that you want to share with us?
Yeah, look, first of all, be prepared for a VUCA world. This is VUCA, as they call it, volatile, ambiguous, and complex. And I'm, as per one of the World Economic Forum's reports, this says minimum 7 job changes might happen for a person who goes into the salaried line, of which only 2 jobs are defined, 5 are unknown right now. So you have to prepare for the unknown. How do you prepare for the unknown is by getting skills. Getting skills, when I talk about skills, is your analytical skills, your subjective skills, and all those things. So don't be stuck with this thing, look, I have to be an engineer, or I have to be an MBA, I have to be an IAS, I have to be this or that. Those things should, if you are passionate about doing photography, then learn drone photography. It's not about the same photography, because that other kind of photography may be less, but drone photography might be a very big thing, and it is becoming more and more big.
Right.
So apply that skill or the passion so that you stay happy. When you stay happy, you will get your returns. So in this complex world that is unfolding and will unfold in the next 4-5 years, find applications where you can use your skills and become better at it. Money will flow in due time.
So wonderful. So prepare for the VUCA world and stay happy and keep innovating in your selected space, right? Because it's going to evolve and we have to evolve with it. Yeah. Right?
And
awesome.
Keep doing meditation. Keep doing meditation.
That's the most important thing. Right.
Get your energies from there. get your energy. So
Beautiful.
not from tablets, so not from any kind of medicine.
Not from the screens. Yeah, yeah, well said. So thank you so much, and we look forward to like have more conversations with you. Thank you for this one. See you soon.
Thank you, Sonali. Thanks for the opportunity. And I wish everyone all the best who's watching. And Sonali, great effort. And this is a very innovative way of involving people and sharing their knowledge. And kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.